We back. Sock Passe YouTube. Welcome back to KashPiece, and welcome back to another episode of Kash's Covers. Today I'm going to be covering the second cover story for One Piece, and that cover story is called The Diary of Koby and Meppo.
Sometimes I had to sever, sometimes I had to weather, and was it worth the effort? And it went never, now I put the bitch before the pleasure. It's no pressure, every day's a new adventure.
This cover story takes place sometime after the introductory arc to One Piece, Romance Dawn, and our actual next installment, Django's Dance Paradise. That'll actually be the third cover story that's coming up after this one. The Diary of Koby and Meppo begins on chapter 83 in the manga and runs until chapter 119. This, much like last week's installment, is actually one of the few cover stories that has an anime adaptation. It's actually covered in the anime in episodes 68 and 69. Our story begins at a small marine base where Koby and Helmeppo are at the very beginning of their training as Marines. As of now, their training mainly consists of just doing chores like scrubbing the hallways and doing all of the other Marine officers' laundry, basically. It's pretty clear that Koby's really focused, and you could see the determination in him that he really wants to be a great Marine. While Helmeppo's a little bit more on the lazier side. If you recall back to the Romance Dawn arc, then you'll kind of see what I'm talking about when it comes to Helmeppo's character. He kind of is mostly just portrayed as a Marine captain spoiled brat for the most part. So this is probably the first time he's probably had to put any kind of real work in his life. So he's kind of getting like a wake-up call with this whole Marine recruit thing. We get to see Koby and Helmeppo enjoying a nice lunch. It's mainly Koby eating lunch with his little lady friend. They're eating some rice balls, while Helmeppo is he's driving a nail into a voodoo doll that bears a striking resemblance to our straw boy. No, not Hawkins. I'm talking about Luffy. Even as we cut to nighttime, you could see Helmeppo's sound asleep, but Koby's up and he's trying to get his studies in, basically, because he's just really focused on becoming the best Marine that he can be. We cut to the next chapter, and there's a new prisoner being brought aboard, and yeah, this prisoner is, much to Koby and Helmeppo's surprise, none other than Captain Morgan. You guys remember Captain Morgan, right? No, not that one. The former Marine captain, Axan Morgan. And Helmeppo's kind of losing his shit at this point, kind of thinking that his dad's probably on the chopping block for execution. Next, we see that a Navy Admiral ship is approaching from off in the distance. Turns out the ship belongs to none other than Vice Admiral Garp. Now, at this point in the story, we don't really know Garp's relation to a certain Straw Hat main protagonist. Garp is approaching now with his right-hand man Bogard by his side, and Koby is kind of just holding Helmeppo back because he kind of knows his curtains for his father at this point. Then, bam. Just like that, Morgan slashes Garp across his chest. I know due to, recent events in the manga, this is kind of ridiculous to even say, but yeah, Axan Morgan slashes Garp across the chest. But at the time of this cover story, we really didn't know Garp's role in the grand scheme of things. There was a lot of mystery surrounding Garp's character at the time. A lot of that gets revealed a little bit later on when we see a lot of these characters again in the post-Enies Lobby arc. Koby and Helmeppo are obviously both shocked at what's going on right now. And Bogard got his hand on his katana, looking like he about to let off one of Zoro's lion songs. But before he can, Captain Morgan takes his own damn son hostage. He grabs up Helmeppo and's holding his axe hand to him. He makes off in a small boat with Helmeppo, while the Navy's kind of making the tough decision to, cut their losses and just sink the boat with a cannonball. But being the real one that he is, Koby decides that he's going to try and jump in front of the cannonball and put up two guns and basically stop the Marines from shooting his best friend into the water. But if you're looking at him, you can see that he really doesn't want to do this because his legs are really shaking, like he really shaking.
Boy, you're shaking like a stripper. Tighten up.
Bogart takes this opportunity to basically dice Koby's guns into pieces, but before anything could go any further than that, Garp comes back into the picture. As it turns out, Garp was actually just sleeping the whole time. When Morgan slashed him, he was asleep. So It kind of makes sense if you know Luffy's character and his relation to Garp. We cut back to Helmeppo and Captain Morgan. Helmeppo has mustered up the courage to tell X and Morgan about himself, even though he's also shaken for real. Like, he really shaken for real.
Boy, you're shaking like a stripper. Tighten up.
And we cut to the next chapter, and it's just Morgan in the boat by himself. After that, we see that Helmeppo has actually swam back to the Navy ship, and him and Koby both are basically begging for forgiveness at this point, because neither of them obviously wanted to cause this big scene, but Helmeppo was just trying to look out for his dad, and Koby was just trying to look out for Helmeppo at the end of the day. To everyone's surprise, Garp is going to take them on as his pupils now, and they're going to head on to Marine HQ. And kind of a full circle moment, Koby and Helmeppo are back to swapping the decks just at Marine HQ now instead of the Marine base they were at the beginning of the story. So if we cut back to that other Marine base that they were at before, we see the young girl is actually demanding to know where they're at. At nighttime, Koby and Helmeppo are actually doing a lot of hard physical training each night, whether that's running around a track or doing upside down pull-up sit-ups, or whether that's sword fighting each other. They're basically doing that throughout each night and building up strength and technique in that time. We see Garp proudly watching as Bogart is beating them up. I mean, giving them a nice sword training. This cover story is really great because it kind of allows you to see the progression of where Koby was at the beginning of the story and Helmeppo. But, if you know where Koby's at currently, you know what I'm talking about. You get to see the growth of Koby and Helmeppo from that Romance Dawn arc, that first arc of One Piece, really, and where they are at this point, and you get those little inklings and steps of the growth. And this cover story, I really appreciate it right now because recent events in the chapter, if you haven't seen my reaction to the most recent chapter, check that out. It really just makes it hit home extra, the relationship of these characters and the reason why they're doing what they're doing right now. So check out for the next one next week. That's Django's Dance Paradise. All right. And check out this other video that's on the screen. And have a nice day. Thank you.